A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. An orchard far, far away. Star Wars. Episode 12, Season Finale. It is the time for two caramel apples, Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee, to recount decades gone far too soon and the epic pop culture offerings that emblazoned itself in history on up to today. This phenomenal, nostalgic juggernaut is one of the most fantastic examples of why the 70s and 80s reached far beyond the outer rim into the unknown region. Retro Truck with the Caramel Apples podcast as we hyperdrive deep into space with Star Wars. Orchard Archivers, and thank you for taking the time to journey back with us this week. And don't forget to take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave us a 5-star written review. We so appreciate your continued support.
Yes.
This week we have an exciting bit of nostalgia to tickle your ears with.
We sure do. Nostalgic, phenomenal juggernaut is an intergalactic understatement there, Coop. Try to go anywhere on this planet and find the person who hasn't seen or at least heard of Star Wars. By and large, the majority being die-hard fans, but more on that in a bit.
Gosh, Kennard, exactly. It would be impossible to have a throwback podcast and not attempt to discuss Star Wars.
Right?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Now, here's a disclaimer to the rabid, avid fan out there. You know who you are. Please take this lighthearted season finale with a ton of salt. Love, 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 love this franchise, but we'll admit this is a tall order. We know there are people who eat, sleep, and breathe all things Star Wars, so bear with us, please.
I think Coop just put herself on blast. So what all do we have in store there, Cooper Lee?
Well, a little of this and a little of that.
Okay.
Seems like there's so much to cover in so little time. You know, I've seen these so many times over and over and over again. So where do we start?
Let's focus on episode 4 through 6 of our dedicated decade time parameters, and we can totally apple snack the characters. What do you think?
I think I like that idea. That's a great segue into our episode this week. And I love the fact that you mentioned episode 4. That's right. Curiously, not 1, not 2, not 3. Because although those are all available now, you know, and someone could catch it and watch it chronologically.
Right.
If that's the way they wish to do it.
Right.
You know, that would be a very, very different experience than what was experienced originally. Because that really adds to the true Gen Xer experience.
Oh, right there, preach.
You know, there was a time before Star Wars. It's hard to believe, but there was a time before Star Wars. And then the time after Star Wars. And that's what anyone around at the time, including Gen Xers, had. And that will never exist again.
That's right. That's history.
Exactly. So yes, generationally, fans will pass it on to their younglings, but not to the epic global proportion like that we have here that existed back in the late 70s. And with the way we were introduced into it, we were smack in the middle of the storyline, that of the Star Wars galaxy in Episode 4, A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it was released to the movie-going public back in the late 70s, as mentioned.
Yep. Proof is in the blue milk, with a strong box office of, get this, $775.8 million US. Episode 4, A New Hope, directed by the infamous George Lucas, was released May 25th, as mentioned, in the year 1977.
And May, interestingly enough, remained the release month for episodes 1 through 6, but we'll focus on the following two, that being episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, that was May 21st of 1980, and Return of the Jedi, May 25th, 1983.
Sweet.
Yeah, so the box office revenue for Empire was $401.5 million worldwide that year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of coin.
It is! Throw some this way.
Yeah, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be all of it. Just a little bit. It's fine. And for Return, it was $374 million worldwide.
Good grief. So even the lowest grossing film was quite impressive in the realm of box office tally history, I would think.
Certainly nothing to sneeze at, right?
Yeah. So before we go too far in, let's talk about the iconic features of this awesome movie-going experience. Excuse me while I nerd out here for a bit.
No excuses needed. Nerd out as much as you please.
Why, thank you. That's what we do best. So thinking back to this wonderful opening sequence, fade in to static, icy blue text on screen. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, cue up one of the most iconic theme songs ever, which was composed by, here we go, shout out to John Williams, okay? Performed by the London Symphony Orchestra.
Yes. Then Star Wars, in futuristic outlined yellow gold lettering, boldly takes center screen and slowly fades into a dark starry background. And then the opening crawl. Pardon me while I geek out a bit.
She couldn't wait.
No.
This is her jam.
So the components of this franchise just became so synonymous right from the start. Here's an interesting fun fact on the opening crawl for A New Hope, though.
Okay.
Fun fact, the original theatrical release in 1977 did not contain the wording Episode 4, A New Hope.
No kidding.
Yeah. It only contained memorable fairy tale text like we described, then Star Wars, and then straight to the crawl.
Gotcha. Okay.
But when it was re-released in 1981, they added the subtitle in Episode 4, A New Hope, and then the crawl.
Okay. So the addition certainly didn't take away from the original, but we can't always say that. Kid gloves.
Exactly, yes. Kid gloves all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans know what they want, and they ultimately have the final say.
So as we just mentioned, we have one of the most recognizable movie theme songs ever, and a solid opener that has spanned the Star Wars galaxy of movies.
I can totally remember sitting in theaters back in the day. And, back then, the only entertainment going on, besides conversation with your friends and whoever you were there with, would be theme song music playing in the background.
That was awesome.
Oh, yeah. And you would just be waiting for the actual curtain to move back on the silver screen.
Yes, folks, there was a curtain on the screen.
And then the current movie would begin to play. And Star Wars would be one of those songs. And I remember Superman, Jaws, these epic songs would play. Star Wars was right along with those.
That just enhanced the whole movie-going experience. I don't even know.
I know.
But I do remember that too. So Now the action starts immediately, and we are introduced to 4 main characters within the opening scene. Who might they be?
Well, we have C-3PO, human cyborg relations, R2-D2, Princess Leia, and surprisingly enough, one of the ultimate baddies of all time, Darth Vader.
He was bad. Yes, there was a wanted poster of old Darth somewhere. We fully endorse that too. Don't worry, Orchard Archivers. We'll do a rotten apple snack for him too. You knew it was coming.
So, we've already mentioned a few big names, but must double back to touch on Mr. George Lucas.
Yeah, right. Okay.
You know, he is the storyteller of this masterpiece, which has been likened to a space opera. The book title is Star Wars: The Adventures of Luke Skywalker. Fun fact, George Lucas only directed episode 4 out of the original 3. Mm-hmm. But he returned to direct episodes 1 through 3 starting in the late 90s. And despite popular opinion, Steven Spielberg has never, to this day, directed one single Star Wars episode.
Wow, okay, so that's pretty cool. I mean, you were sitting there talking about using the word juggernaut, you know, just in directors.
Right.
So that's crazy because he's got his own collection of greatness. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and we know they're friends.
They are friends.
They're tight friends.
Like, we wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
Like we have any say.
Right. But Steven Spielberg, rumor has it, had been approached, but he did decline the offer. And he did have a major contribution, though.
Okay.
And that was he introduced George to the composer John Williams.
All's forgiven. Which leads to another question for any one of our listeners who may not know. Why did George Lucas start with episode 4?
This is a swirling question. Let's see what we got. I believe it was simply that the story was just so vast that starting in the middle helped to open up for a wide range of characters and all the in-your-face action.
Oh.
And as we mentioned, 4 main characters immediately introduced in the beginning. And on that notion, there are tons of books out there that veer off in so many different directions. The story is quite literally a galaxy. Pun intended.
I believe that with all my being.
Yes.
Good grief.
Yeah. You know, and I've seen numbers possibly like around 86, close to 400 books in this series. So I don't know, somewhere in there, the number lies. Mind blown.
That's certainly a wide range, either way you look at it. And that might be a good one for the archivers. Like, how many books are in the Star Wars series? How many have you personally read? Please weigh in on our exciting episode this week. You know, I feel like we haven't even made a dent in this topic so far. I mean, this is Star Wars after all.
No.
Jeez.
Agreed.
She's laughing.
You know, there is so much to cover. You know, and we could probably talk on this subject for days, if we're being quite honest.
Well, like everything.
Right, that's just what we do. So, a quick entry for episode 4. As we stated, less than 5 minutes into A New Hope, we've encountered laser blasters between ships, explosions, armed rebel soldiers running through hallways, and 2 most lovable droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, moving for cover. 3PO says to R2, "We're doomed."
Wake up! Wake up! We're doomed.
R2 responds with his adorable clicks and whistles, which no doubt he feels the same way. 3PO continues, "There'll be no escape for the princess this time."
That right there just instantly leads to so many questions for the first time watching this movie. Who's the good guys? Who are the baddies? Who is this princess?
Right? Can we say hook, line, and sinker? Yes, you know, this instant mayhem And so many questions that need answered, like you said. It completely reels you in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Then, as we wait to see what's next, there's all these ominous sounds and everyone's looking around and at each other, and the tension is really building at this point. The sealed door is blown to smithereens and laser fire is coming in from the doorway from all these soldiers in PVC pipe armor. These are the stormtroopers.
I can see them. So we're having a bit of fun about the armor. But these were fierce fighters, and not to be confused with the clone troopers. But that history is not discussed in these movies. Check out episode 2 and 3 for further on that.
Yeah.
But they are loyal to the Empire, and will fight to the death for that loyalty.
Exactly, Kenage. So at this point, keeping the new viewer in mind, still don't know who's who and who should I root for.
Mm-hmm.
While all this heavy firing is going back and forth, 3PO and R2 attempt crossing the hall from one doorway to another. By 2 minutes and 36 seconds in, Darth Vader, the bad motor scooter that he is, enters the scene for the first time, and history is made. Slow standing clap.
Goodness, we're nerding out bad.
You said it.
This is such an iconic moment. At this point, if you didn't know which side was which, his whole presence and demeanor certainly gave that indication. These must be the bad guys.
Absolutely. And on that note, feel free to root for whichever side you like, right?
That's right.
So he strolls through all the carnage, looks around, steps over bodies, and just keeps it moving. He's definitely on a mission.
You gotta watch out for them bad motor scooters. With black helmets on. So without a word as of yet, he's an imposing figure for sure, and you can tell he commands the room.
Oh, yeah.
Darth Vader's physical role is played by David Prowse, who stands 6'6" tall and was a bodybuilder. The lightsaber fight scenes were performed by the legendary Bob Anderson, and the voice we of course know to be James Earl Jones. Talk about iconic.
Yeah.
That's how menacing this character was. It took 3 actors to really seamlessly bring him to screen.
Yeah. And the attention to detail to carefully bring the concept to screen is not missed at all.
Mm-hmm.
I love this story.
Oh, this is Coop's jam.
Guilty as charged.
Nerd alert.
She says it like it's a bad thing. So now we have C-3PO, played by Anthony Daniels, who is the only actor to be in or involved with all 11 script-to-screen movies.
Okay.
So that's mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And his character is very memorable. And then we have R2-D2, played by Kenny Baker. He was actually inside the droid shell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And Darth Vader. And now enter the princess that 3PO was fretting about.
Okay. That being the wonderful Princess Leia Organa of Alderaan, played by Carrie Fisher. So much to tell on her history as well. So this is the first time for a new viewer to see Princess Leia on screen. Now she's not in a ball gown and with flowers and ribbons in her hair. At least not right now. Oh no. Actually, she's one of the greatest leaders of the Rebel Alliance. And she's a member of the Imperial Senate. She's quite the formidable foe to the Empire's cause. What's she up to nearing the 5-minute mark?
Well, even though massive action has already ensued, we soon see that her actions at this pivotal moment really drive characters on their quest to epic proportions. Okay, so here's the tea. 3PO is seen calling for R2, whom he seems to think is lost.
R2-D2, where are you? I'm lost. Where have you been?
But indeed, R2 is not lost. He's assisting Princess Leia as she records a message and saves it on his memory files.
Oh, this is life now back then.
Yes.
That was her iPhone. Thank you, R2.
Thank you, R2. He's such a cute
He
unit.
is cute. We love all things cute, whatever.
Thank you. I agree. So whoever could that message be for? Stay tuned. Because of this message, a whole host of characters will enter.
The excitement doesn't stop. Vader is now seen choking, which is kind of a thing, whether being physically or invisibly, one of the rebels. Leia is stunned, captured, and taken to Vader. R2 and 3PO enter an escape pod and jettison out from the captured ship. Thankfully, the Imperial Guard avoid taking the pod out. Not the podcast. This pod. This pod's what we're talking about. Because they mistakenly think the pod is empty and has just malfunctioned, like our podcast.
The wheels are coming off.
Coming off that and rolling out in the way. And fans everywhere are so happy that they've made that mistake because schematics and the SOS message are safely on their way. But this does not stop Vader.
Oh, literally, it does make sense starting here because the story really does open up at this point. Careful, more spoilers ahead.
Oh, wonderful. We indeed find out who the transmission is for. But before that, the two droids land on Tatooine. They are picked up by the Jawas.
So, there are some really cute characters in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, yeah.
We mentioned R2-D2. And the Jawas certainly fit the bill. They crack me up. Running around with their little hooded robes on and swinging those arms. It's always looking like they're in such a hurry.
Aww.
And when they talk to each other, it kind of reminds me of Cinderella's mice, Jack and Gus.
Right?
These cuties live and drive around this tank.
It gets better.
You know, they're collectors. So this really is like a glorified trash truck called the Sandcrawler.
Love it.
It's massive.
I love the cute.
No. Can't help but laugh every time we see them.
Too adorable. Wait, where were we?
Oh, yeah. We were nutshelling how the droids finally arrive on Tatooine.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Enter Luke Skywalker, who is like a typical young adult at this time. His Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen Lars, who purchased the droids, almost inadvertently separated 3PO and R2. But thankfully, the other droid unit craps out, and 3PO points out panicking R2, and immediate crisis is averted.
Nice.
Yeah. While tinkering and cleaning up the droids, Luke, also played by, Mark Hamill, hears about the infamous rebellion and subsequently triggers the partial message that Leia had recorded on R2. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are my only hope. He's completely enamored by her hologram and wants to help. I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Typical guy.
Yes.
Come on, Luke. R2 states and 3PO translates that he belongs to Obi-Wan, and Luke begins to wonder if this Obi-Wan R2 is referring to is old hermit Ben Kenobi.
Fun fun fact, Obi-Wan has certainly been around R2 multiple times in many circumstances, but he has never owned R2. But this is certainly a valid question, so Luke removes the Jawa's droid collar that has been placed on both the droids, but the message disappears when he does that.
Okay.
So Luke's frustrations lead to 3PO's belittling poor little R2.
You don't be mean to him.
At this point, Luke can't stop thinking about the message, and he's seemingly fixated, as we said.
Typical guy.
Typical guy. But all this has to wait because his aunt calls him to join them for dinner. He poses questions to his aunt and uncle, and, typical, teenage boy talking to adults. And by the looks exchanged between the two, his aunt and uncle, moviegoers can tell there's something in brewing, and that they're potentially trying to keep it away from little Luke.
Oh, all right. Yep.
So once Luke leaves the room, he leaves the table, his aunt and uncle provide a little bit more clues and drive the story further, as we would expect. And that he has a lot of his father in him. So,
This saga is completely being told in a suspenseful way. Everything keeps you locked in for the next scene. Just enough to link to another question.
Yeah. It's like, that's some nice storytelling. And at this point, R2 takes off for Old Ben, that being Obi-Wan, and Luke has no idea that his future is about to really get exciting.
Oh boy.
And the Sand People are the least of his worries. We learn a quick history of this old hermit Ben Kenobi. He is indeed Obi-Wan, a Jedi Knight, and fought alongside Luke's deceased father.
Him again?
Yeah.
As the plot thickens, we see some serious iconic things being introduced. Like lightsabers.
No! So exciting. Oh, yeah. These movies are full of intergalactic weapons, blasters that can turn into stun guns,
All right.
and the infamous lightsabers, as you mentioned.
This is very Star Wars. This is what it is. That's what it is.
It is so iconic. It is so iconic. And these were normally made by the user, and it included a kyber crystal that would be of different colors. And whatever the color of the crystal was would be the color of the actual light that emitted from the saber.
That's bad to the bone. I don't even know.
It really is, right?
Yes.
So Luke's mysterious father, his saber was blue, and that was also bestowed to Luke from Obi-Wan. He provided that for him. And the one that Luke actually builds later is green.
Okay.
And as we go along, we'll also see red as well as some other different colors.
Okay.
And of course, red is kind of known as being bad.
Oh, of course. I'll take a red one, please.
Right. So speaking of lightsabers, Disney actually has a forge down, I don't know if it's at Disneyland too, but I believe at Disney World. They have a forge that you can go in, you actually pay a fee, so you can build your own saber.
Really?
Yeah, it's and you have to make a reservation and everything, and I don't know.
That's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And it's about a half hour, I think, doing all of this. Yeah, and then at the end, everyone presents their sabers.
I like that. That just shows how well thought out they make things for the fans.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, you want to be part of this experience? And they get creative.
Exactly.
Yes, I think that's amazing.
So with that, you also have what's going on with, the extended stories that Disney, since we've mentioned them, is, it's bringing people along that maybe weren't Star Wars fans to begin with. They like these subsidiary stories. And it's bringing them into the fantasy of Star Wars. So now they're becoming fans. It's really, really cool what's going on.
Sounds like it. You haven't been there yet, have you?
No.
Think you're running a little behind.
I am. Let's see. I'll put that on the to-do list.
Stat.
But back to the weapons, right? Of Star
right.
Wars.
Yeah.
The ultimate weapon, of course, is the Death Star.
Ooh.
Yes, where Governor Tarkin is commander.
Okay.
And it had the power to obliterate planets.
Don't mess with it.
Right?
Wow.
And they actually demonstrated this for Leia and the audience when they targeted her home planet of Alderaan.
Okay.
And the Death Star is mobile too. So that adds to the oh my goodness, this weapon is bad mamma jamma.
That's right.
So fun fact, the Death Star schematics are the ones that Leia uploaded onto R2-D2's memory files. Yes, so no wonder the Imperial forces were desperate to find her.
So this is where the synopsis of this movie really begins to take shape, which is the Imperial forces, under orders from cruel Darth Vader, hold Princess Leia hostage in their efforts to quell a rebellion against the Galactic Empire. Luke Skywalker, well, we'll add Obi-Wan, and Han Solo, which is played by Harrison Ford, captain of the Millennium Falcon, work together with the companionable droid duo R2-D2 and C-3PO to rescue the beautiful princess, help the Rebel Alliance, and restore freedom and justice to the galaxy.
Epic!
How else can you explain it? Right?
Right. In a nutshell, that is what it is. It's just effortlessly unfolding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Han Solo, Chewbacca, generals, Jabba, Mandalorians, aliens of all sorts. You know, the stage is set for all the characters to be introduced. So love this story.
I know. Seeing Luke swing his father's lightsaber for the first time while learning about the Force and Darth Vader and how he was already affecting his life by murdering his father. Wow. How can you not stay tuned?
Yeah. So the saga of this magnitude, it has also given way to, you know, some many quotes and, you know, nostalgic scenes throughout pop culture as expected. Like one, Darth Vader says, "I find your lack of faith is disturbing."
In that voice.
In that voice, exactly.
Sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Enough of this. Vader, release him.
As you wish.
And, you know, Han Solo, as he and Luke, they were dressed as stormtroopers and they were attempting to rescue Princess Leia. You know, you got alarms going off. They're on the Death Star, by the way. Alarms are going off and, you know, he starts to speak in the intercom.
Okay.
Han says, everything is under control. Situation normal. Income voice. What happened? Han. Had a slight weapons malfunction, but, everything's perfectly alright now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you? Intercom voice. We're sending a squad up. Han. Negative. We have a reactor leak here. Now, give us a few minutes to lock a large leak. Very dangerous. Intercom voice. Who is this? What's your operating number?
We gotta find out which cell this princess of yours is in. Here it is. 2187. You go and get her. I'll hold him here.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
What happened?
Had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
We're sending a squad up.
Negative. We have a reactor leak here now. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. Large leak, very dangerous.
Who is this? What's your operating number?
You're breaking up. Sorry. Conversation anyway.
Look, we're gonna have company!
So clearly out of stalling ideas, Han blasts the intercom. So fast forward to 2007. This scene and the little MSE-6 repair droid made its way into the Family Guy episode of Blue Harvest episode. And it was so satirical with so many elements, of course. So this movie just lends itself to pop culture history.
Oh my goodness, another one of Coop's favorites is Family Guy. Oh my goodness, that's a whole other dimension right there. We got enough to talk about with Star Wars, so. But especially with this famous quote, I have a bad feeling about this being uttered by multiple characters at different times throughout the saga.
Facts.
Would you say we're at the very tip of the iceberg with Star Wars?
More like we're hovering over the iceberg by plane or drone.
That's more fun.
There's just so much going on. And we're completely excited to deep dive into the characters. So as we mentioned, please come back and check out our Apple Snacks for that.
That's right.
And just think up to this point, characters and moviegoers have no clue who is related to whom. Mm-hmm. Governor Tarkin says, "Evacuate? In our hour of triumph?" I think you overestimate their chances.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Boom!
So again, spoilers ahead. After the rebel destruction of the Death Star, we see how the story seamlessly introduces the next, that being The Empire Strikes Back, directed by Irvin Kershner. But of course it does. The evil empire is not done yet. So the synopsis of this 2-hour, 4-minute continuation is the adventure continues in the Star Wars sequel. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Chewbacca, played by Peter Mayhew, face attack by the Imperial forces and its AT-AT walkers on the ice path Hoth. While Han and Leia escape in the Millennium Falcon, Luke travels to Dagobah in search of Yoda. Only with the Jedi Master's help will Luke survive when the dark side of the Force beckons him into the ultimate duel with Darth Vader.
Oh. So, we shouldn't go much further without mentioning our guy squad while growing up.
Oh, yes, the Guy Squad.
Holy God, what are you showing me? Hey, come on.
There were at least 11 close guy friends we played with back in the day. And Star Wars was massively huge in this group.
It was.
Name the toys, they had them.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah, and the Kenner Toy Company created and produced most of those action figures.
Oh, sweet.
And the spaceships, bombers, the Millennium Falcon, destroyers, the TIE, enemy fighters, etc.
Yeah, Kenner. Yeah, that's back then. Yeah, that was a name you heard, in those toy commercials. So, this hand in glove. This totally brings it back. Oh, no. But, yes, even Princess Leia's action figure with her cinnamon roll hairdo. That's the coolest.
It was.
Completely remember Mom putting our hair in this style a time or two.
Yeah.
And the enemy fighter ships were also reminiscent of Leia's, her hairdo.
I know, right?
Leia's do.
Yeah, it was extremely influential throughout this. So the merchandising was huge. Posters, of course, action figures, t-shirts, other apparel, school supplies, lunch boxes, 3PO cereal, which we did a whole cereal episode.
Our breakfast cereal, yes.
Yeah, back in season 1, I believe.
Sure was.
And of course, we mentioned this one. So feel free to check that out.
Yeah.
But back to Star Wars. The memorabilia, they had video games, replicas of the lightsabers. Oh my goodness. And you can get into thousands of dollars with these.
Just like any entity like this, yeah. They go all out, boy. You just prepare to separate yourself with some coin,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're counting on them dollars.
Counting on it.
Legos, bed sheets, etc. And with this next installment, we see for the first time more Imperial machines.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So when you gave the synopsis, you mentioned the huge AT-AT walkers, which stood 20 meters tall or over 65 feet.
That is freaking bad to the bone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the AT-AT stands for All-Terrain Armored Transport.
There you go, archivers, like you didn't know. But yeah, we had to remind you because that's what it is.
That's right. And these were great for tactical support, and they definitely led to instilling fear in opponents.
I see why.
I mean, Luke was even almost talked
Oh my God, poor Luke.
And the ATSTs, they kind of would remind you of chickens.
Oh no.
So maybe not so physically scary until you were vaporized by its lasers.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So that's it for this week's riveting episode. But next time, we'll pick back up and recount even more intergalactic nostalgia coming up in Star Wars Part 2. So stay tuned. You won't want to miss this. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss a beat, and be ready to revisit more memorable fun archives and better times right here at the Sweet Spot. See you then. Bye.